Hi, my name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. I'm going to respond to somebody about a very fun topic. It's something that I've been working on a lot on my own, but I don't talk to people about it because it's not a part of the interpretation process. And I think it kind of gets fringe for a lot of people. But that is, how does supernatural work? If there is no supernatural, how does it work? I have had supernatural experiences, and I sit here and say there's no such thing as supernatural. How do I explain myself? I have I have spent so much time working on that, and I think now we are learning things about the cosmos and the brain and quantum physics that is actually where we need to go. But I'm not going to do that in this video, of course. What I want to do is talk about how I believe it happens. And first, I want to talk about my own supernatural experience. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the channel. I've actually had a number of them. I have them frequently. But there's no control over them. They just happen randomly, and they're not significant. Let's talk about what those are. For the purpose of the video, I know a lot of people have had things happen. I sense something here or there, Mom, something, I'm getting help. All of those things are real. You get together in a worship and everybody's doing something and you feel this, oh, that's so uplifting. We feel the power of the Lord, the power of God, the Holy Spirit. Depends on who you are or what you call it. But that same feeling happens other places. I have felt that feeling in many cases that are not religious. So I know the feeling is real. But I don't know what the source of the feeling is. I'm a kid. Long ago, I don't know what's going on. And the supernatural story I'm going to tell has to do with a brother's death in a young age. I want everybody to know I'll do my best to, get through it okay. It has been a long time ago. I'm all right with it. I appreciate everybody's concerns. But okay, I was raised in a religious environment, very strict, we were afraid. We prayed, we were told, yeah, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep if I should die before I wake. I pray the Lord my soul to take. We knew that if we weren't praying and made God happy, we would, if and died, we would go to hell. We had that fear instilled in us as I can remember that. You would pray before going to bed, kneel down beside the bed. So I have that in my background. And we went to church. I was never really, never big on, very much participating. Your kids, you just want to play. At home for other reasons that are okay now, it was a very abusive home. There was whippings. Somebody would go in a rage and start whipping with a belt. We would be welted all over. It wasn't like swatting. It was somebody just wailing and wailing and wailing. You couldn't run away. You're being held across the bed. And it happened until somebody's rage was done. That's how long we got beat. Looking back on it, that's what it was. We're kids. You did something wrong, you get in trouble. But I mean, what is deserving of something like that? Fighting over who pulls the wagon while somebody rides inside. There's something different. You look back and go, yeah, something was snapping. Something was not okay. And in between those times, I can remember being told, yeah, you're so stupid. You kids are so damn dumb. You'll never amount to anything. Those were common things growing up. One day, coming home from Sunday school, Larry was talking, and I don't remember the details that much. I might have details that I've added in that might not be there. All I remember is that he was excited about learning about heaven, and he was trying to engage me in conversation about it. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. We're going to go someday. It'll be fun. We'll see Blackie. I remember that. We had a cat that died. We get to go see Blackie, and we'll never be hungry. We can eat whatever we want. No liver, that kind of stuff. We used to get sent to bed without meals and things like that. So I remember that he was very excited about that. That was just be a wonderful place. And it's a November, fall, cool, crisp day. I remember I wanted to go outside and play with Larry. We lived in a rural area, had some acres of woods there. And the leaves coming down and all that fall time of year. My youngest brother, at that time, a younger brother was ready to start, getting ready to start preschool, and I was tasked to help him memorize his ABCs. So we're sitting there at the kitchen table going through the rote, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that over and over again, trying to get him to memorize them. And I remember looking out the window of the kitchen and seeing Larry throwing this orange water bucket up in the air. We had some ducks. He was getting water and getting to the ducks, and I wanted to go out there and play. Eventually, he was gone, and I'm sitting there with my brother, and time goes on. I don't know how long it is, maybe a half hour or something like that. And my brother had to get up and go to the bathroom. And at that time, something bizarre started happening to me at that time. Remembering the environment is such that if you were disobedient, you would get whipped. You didn't look for that. It happened. You were scared. Leaving the table at that time, feeling like I'm gonna do something bad. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna sneak out. I'm gonna go find Larry. And something compelled me to do that. And I don't know what that was. I just know that that happened. As I'm sneaking out the back door, I didn't want my mom to hear me. She's sitting in the living room reading the newspapers. I'm sneaking out the back door. I'm pulling my jacket on quietly. I'm trying to reach towards the doorknob to open it up. And just before I get to the doorknob, my fingers are just like this close away. It felt, for all the world, as if a palm just stopped me dead in my tracks. There was nothing there, but sensation was there. And I heard, as a matter of fact, as if the sky is blue or 1 and 1 is 2, I heard, Larry's dead. And I just shook that off. I mean, I paused for half a second or something like that, but I was like, well, that's crazy. Where did that come from? I sneak out, it's got a banging screen door. I'm taking my time trying to really slowly open the door and let it close. I go up in the woods and I find Larry, and certainly that was the case. He had hung himself. And he was dead. He was dead. What happened? How did that happen? How did that work? That's supernatural, isn't it? There's other things that happened growing up. I remember times as a teenager, riding through the city with my buddies or something like that, and we're goofing around. And I don't know why. I remember like 1 or 2 times you're getting ready to crest over the hill or something like that, and we're, probably smoking something we shouldn't be or something like that. And I would say, watch out, I think there's a cop over the hill. Sure enough, there would be one, and I don't know how that happened. It was very rare. To this day, strange things will happen. About a month ago, I'm wandering around in the garage doing stuff. I had no task. I don't know what I was doing, but I walk over to the far corner over there where I really never go there. And there's a little shelf, and my wife's sunglasses were there. So I thought, oh, that's weird. They're prescription. So I picked them up and brought them in, and she was like, oh, I was just looking for those. Things like that happen, and you go, well, that's not very much, but it's bizarre. I found my wife is looking for glasses. I'm wandering off someplace where I don't even wander. I find what she's looking for and bring them to her. How does that work? Is that supernatural? Is that coincidence? There's enough of it that goes on sometimes that you go, yeah, that's just too weird. It's too bizarre. I don't see that as a coincidence. So that's what I want to talk about. I know a lot of people have experiences that are so far out there. There's times I go, I don't even care. I don't know. I'm going with my experience. How did that happen? Life goes on. And here's what I want to start talking about now. Energy, how humans work. I believe that it's a natural process and that we evolved for that to be there. And this is why I think that. Now, first off, I apologize for the absolute non-science nature of this, and I'm not going to pull up things. I just want to talk like we're sitting around the fire, passing a libations. Yeah, just watching the stars and yeah. Okay, I think it starts if you keep going upstream, at some point we're told, and I'm convinced of this, that waves of energy somehow, of some sorts of energy, are radiating throughout the universe. And I know that that's true. We can see it. There's some of it we can see. There's some of it we can hear. There's a lot we can interact with. But that the physical matter itself, physical things, are waves of energy that have somehow become tied up as physical objects at that time. We know this through Einstein. Everything is energy then. Even the matter that we are, even if it's solid right now or feels solid, it's energy. Okay. I had a career in electronics doing a variety of things, and I did a lot of development. And what I know is that if you take like a couple of frequencies, if you've ever watched those videos of like the double slit experiment, and it shows the waves as they get together, they make these little kind of symbol things as they cross. It's like, oh, instead of just one wave going along by itself, now when two crash into each other, these patterns start emerging. What I know is if you take two frequencies, like 1 kilohertz and 2 kilohertz, and you mix them together, what you get out the other side is 1 kilohertz, 2 kilohertz. So you also get the sum and the difference. So if you don't filter that out, when you take two frequencies and mix them together, you now have 4 frequencies that are different. Now those start crashing in and going into other things that happens, that we get this continual development of frequencies that go, we don't even know how far. What we can see is frequency in a visible range. And it's the reason it's a color that it is, the eye is optimized, is tuned. That's not a good term, is it? Tuned. The eye is naturally tuned. The eye evolved to see the physical world. That's where we live. We live in the physical world. We need to interact with the physical world. Even though the vast majority of the universe is something we don't interact with, we are nevertheless from it. We are way downstream in the energy. We are emergent, I don't know, the flotsam of bubble nucleation universe. I don't know. I forget I said that. But the frequencies continue to mix and mix and mix and mix, and that's where the complexity starts coming into place. But we're in the physical world, we're emerging there, we're evolving there. We are evolving to exist there. There's nothing in the rest of the universe that we don't have to worry about it. There's no creatures coming after us. That's where we think creatures are. But we are somehow emergent from the universe. We're a part of that energy. The brain develops. The brain has the capacity to tune all of that stuff. And it all becomes, we're learning now that there's some sort of quantum thing going on. That even when we smell something, that it's like there's quantum signals that go to the brain that tells you what that smells like. Have you seen any of those videos with Dr. Jim Al-Khalili? Like the quantum robin test and things like that, how they're showing how smells and things like that are all quantum. The brain reads certain atomic structure. So it's all atomic structure. It seems pretty analogous to us. We look at it and go, yeah, that's the smell of a rose. We don't think that that's digital. We don't. It's like, no, it's not. It's the smell of a rose. That vanilla tastes like vanilla. It is not digital. At the brain level, it is digital. So there's something very complex, but out here it's so smoothed out and so, yeah. It's like hearing digital music reproduced. It's so fast. It doesn't sound digital. If it's slow, it starts sounding goofy. But it's happening so fast. Okay, where am I going? I'm all over the place with this, aren't I? I've not had this conversation with anybody. I apologize. We are now, eyes are tuned to see things that are in the physical realm. Our ears developed to hear the things that are moving around and sneaking up on us. Things have to be silent. Yeah. But you know what? There is nevertheless, the vast majority of the energy in the universe is still hitting our eyes and hitting our ears, but it's not tuned to it. It's like having a radio station tuned into one station. I could pick up all kinds of stuff, but I'm just picking up one thing right here. The eyes are picking up one thing. The ears are picking up one thing. The nose is picking up something. We're physical beings in a physical environment, but we're coming from an energy place, and there's something weird going on. We've got something coming into our consciousness when we see it, when we hear it, taste it, smell it, touch it. But sometimes something comes into the consciousness when those are not there. It was not of those physical senses. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? What if the brain, we're existing in fields. We're sharing fields. We evolved in fields. Imagine a group of people that's danger coming. Everybody better feel fear. Think of this. How many times sitting there alone, I think that there's some qualities about us that I've noticed in myself that I at some point in time, I think that maybe they're naturally built in. I'm very jumpy. That might be from childhood, just being, you were always, PTSD from growing up as a kid. But I think that I could still sit there sometimes. I spent a lot of time out in the wilderness, and out doing things. And I'm pretty calm and relaxed now, but I can remember times where you hear something or see something and you kind of react to it like, oh, what's that? What's that? Like you instantly feel fear, not like, oh, I hear a sound sneaking up behind me. I wonder what that is. We don't usually do that. We usually go, because that's the way we are. And it would be very important for all of us in a group to feel that same thing for survival. We're coming from an energy place. The brain is not just a physical thing. It's connected to other areas of the universe on a quantum level in those fields, I believe, and that's where things are happening. To explain my brother's situation then is where it gets difficult. I think that what happened is that Larry took the rope and climbed up on the stump and put it around his neck. He might not have wanted to die, but it was tied tight. I had to go home. I cut him down. I had to cut the rope. And then when he hit the ground, the loop around his neck, I couldn't get it. I had to put the knife between the neck and the rope to cut it away. So the knot was not a slip knot. It was a tight knot that was small enough that his head wouldn't fit through it. It was purposefully tied. He was there alone. But if he stepped off, the rope diameter was smaller than my finger. You're not going to climb that. I never looked at his hands, but I got to thinking, if he stepped off there and he would have strangled. It would have hurt. He might have thought, oh, I changed my mind. Danny, where are you? I'm sitting there at the table going, I got to get out of here. I don't know what's going on. But before all of that happens, it's too late. My brain already knows that. Larry's dead didn't come to me. The knowledge of what happened was in the cosmos, and my brain knew what dead was and knew who Larry was. That Larry's dead came from my head, but the knowledge came from the field. That's how I would explain that as a natural phenomenon. And that the other things are just that way too. Somehow you are sensitive to those things, the jumpiness, all of that stuff. There's things that we're really sensitive to. But the cumulative psyche, I think that we just, in the energy field, I think is what there is. And that we as electrochemical beings are radiating small amounts of energy. Ever go on a trip and you're like, oh, I got to get out of the city. And there's like a point of debarkation, or you get away from people, you get far enough away and you're like, oh, it's like you just got away from that. If you're the right person, you get that feeling. But we're also jumpy. We're also very hyper aware. I am incredibly averse to loud and obnoxious noises or sounds or things like that. I like things very gentle and smooth. It's strange. Where some people like loud, I like quiet. I think we're going to have those qualities, that those are going to be ways that we're going to look at ourselves and go, oh yeah, that's kind of my personality. I might fit that category right there. I believe I'm just looking for common traits, who the hell are called? Also very, I don't know. I can spot people's hurt feelings pretty easily that are trying to hide them. And I think there are people that's what's there. But that then there are some people who by default then would be more sensitive to that. And I'm going to say, this is theory. And I'm not current with any of the brain type stuff, but when I was studying that stuff, I learned that I am a very incredibly tight INFP, introverted, sensing, feeling. I perceive. I am really that personality. And I think that is a personality that would be that one on the outskirts, that I want it quiet. I see a lot of things. Shh. Pay attention. I see what's going on. I'm kind of that way. Jumpy, very sensitive. I feel things quickly. I sense things. But I think that what we have is just a sixth sense that this is an emotional channel. We got our visual, audible, mouth as well, smell, all of those. But that this one up here is how we share emotions. And that would be an evolved group, something that would help the group. So people that are a big group of people not paying attention. They're kind of scattered around and somebody senses fear. You don't want everybody, sitting around not, if one person senses fear and they radiate that and you for some reason are going, what's that? You're sensing something that is going to help you survive. You're sensing the danger. Also, wow, we're out of food, we're out of water, we're out of something. Somebody finds something, there's excitement, there's an elation. We share those emotions when we're together, and it doesn't matter what God you worship or you give it credit to, what team, or sometimes just having a personal experience, being in love, or just communicating with somebody on such a rich level like this that you're like, ooh, I feel this closeness or something. There's an openness that you feel right there. Yeah, that's a normal feeling. We get in and out of that. And I think also, I used to harbor a lot of things up in my mind, a lot of anger, a lot of pain, a lot of shame, a lot of things that I wasn't going to talk about. They were things that I accumulated along the way. And as I started finding the material and working through the material, I began to realize that those were my problems, the things that are clogging up this. The universe and all the energy that is out there, or whatever I am using, whatever I need to live my life or perceive my life, the energy filters through those experiences, the perceptions of the experiences. Coming through the experiences is no big deal. If you and somebody did something one time and you have no shame with it, you're going to be okay. If you did something one time and you feel absolute shame over it, you're not going to be okay. What is it? It's the shame you hold that is the problem. When we realize that, it's like, this is the key to it all right here. The perceptions of the memories that I'm holding, that if I can talk them out, if I can get to a point where I'm like, okay, that shame that I had before, yeah. I would never tell anybody one time that I had been molested. I thought they would think, you pervert. It's something I don't know. There's all kinds of things in your head. You destroy yourself. Then you tell people and they're like, oh, bummer, man. That happens to a lot of people. Come on, let's get some dinner. Mexican tonight. You're like, what have I done to myself all these years? We tear ourselves up, holding on to things that we need to let go of. And once we do that, the flow happens better too. Those magical things, it's like, ooh, you stop looking at them. My wife and I used to just, there it is again, there it is. Now it's like, that's normal life. It just happens. You get used to it. That's how humans function. If we step back and separate ourselves from the physical things that we've grabbed onto. And I think that is how the spiritual works. And that, yeah, I can see how that would have unfolded for me and for Larry at that time without anything supernatural. The answers I find don't always make me feel the best that they could, but I want what is really happening. I want to understand what's real. So you look on your own. But anyway, I wanted to say that. Those are my thoughts on it. If you look at the universe and if everything is happening within energy somehow, something, we have to work it out in our own minds to see it. But at some point, there's an energy basis that we're emergent from. We're never separate from it. It is totally the foundation for our existence. But when we get conscious and start looking at the physical world, we turn completely away from it. Plus, we're evolved to really live in the physical world, so we don't have a huge connection to it. But I believe that's what it is. Does that make sense? I don't think anything if something supernatural happens, that means what? That it is somehow defying universal laws. If it's not violating universal laws, then it's natural. If God is there, God is natural. If angels are there, they're natural. If demons are there, they're natural. All of it. It would be emergent from in that energy. But I think that all of those things actually reside right here. And that connection, if you're thinking, oh my God, I need God's help, and you're pouring out your soul, it's going to work. No matter who you are, it's an emotional connection. We might hang on to it and credit it to some deity or being, a belief system or something like that. but you don't have to. It happens to everyone. Nobody lays claim to miracles. It's pretty much across the board. It works that way for everyone. Anyway, okay. Was that, let me get back to that comment. My question is, do you see the connecting with the energy at different levels as natural or amazingly supernatural in a natural sense, not miraculous? Did I answer that question? I think it's all based in energy, and we are emotional creatures, though, even though everything we're hanging on to is based in energy. Let me go back and say this because I think it makes it more clear, actually. I didn't do a good job with this earlier. I'm talking about things quantum and being digital. As you're smelling stuff, it smells like rose. It smells like vanilla. It smells like something different. But there's a way that molecules are assembled that fit with certain structures that tells your brain what that is. And then somehow your experience recreates that experience. You're not actually, it's a weird thing. It does come from there, definitely. The molecular structure of this right here is what gives it that. It doesn't taste like a structure, does it? It tastes like vanilla. It tastes like chocolate. It smells like rose. Hopefully, or something. Okay. Everything is going to be working that way. And if that is the case, then what we are storing up here is of an energy nature. We are taking thought and storing it there, but it's functioning actually in that same sort of a way. But you know what the problem is that instead of a smell or a taste, what you get with it is the feeling. But you see how they all work like that. This is not that unique. The sixth sense you look at and go, okay, I can see that's exactly how it would work. And that it's not very strong. It really probably came on board to begin with as how to feel fear or joy. But it doesn't go outside, apparently, the brain's capacity. Yeah, the brain can do things we may not be able to be aware of. I don't need to feel somebody else's love or something like that. We don't experience those things. We tend to feel larger waves of things. However, within that, we do get other things happening. There can be specific details at times. Everything I'm telling you is anecdotal. You don't have to believe me. This is how I proceed. Yeah, all of it is energy, but somehow when it gets to the brain, something different happens, and we begin to allow our feelings to guide us. That's a weird thing. I allow my feelings to guide me, but I don't allow my feelings to guide my search. But throughout the day, when I'm not paying attention, I trust my feelings very well. But when I'm looking for answers, I don't trust it. I want to find Larry. You're going to have connections like that are tough. Okay, the other question. Yeah, there was something about the Rosicrucians, was it? Yeah. Lastly, can you comment on the Rosicrucian studies, or is that a no-go area? And I'm not sure what you mean by no-go area, but I would say I bet it is. I bet it is. You know what? I've got some... This isn't the same thing, but I've got some Kabbalion. I've got some Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And you know what? All of this is going to somehow be based in the same thing. What do we have in here? This is not going to follow a monomyth template. It's not going to follow that. What this is going to do is be more like science step, like taking what I am teaching right now and then throwing it back into a cryptic analog way, taking something and making it so that it's not plain language, but it isn't those big stories. What do we have here? The principle of mentalism. Everything is mental. Everything is mental. Buddha, Dhammapada, all that we are is the result of all we have thought. It is made up of our thoughts. It is founded in our thoughts. The principle of mentalism. Nothing different. The principle of correspondence. I'm not sure what that is. The principle of vibration. Yeah, that's a frequency of things, I believe. How it feels. Ooh, that's good. That's a good vibration. Sounds like a Beach Boys song. Bad vibes. I don't like that. The principle of vibration. So, ultimately, that's true. You store away something that is called shame. And it is sitting up there, stored electrically and chemically. Very light, but it's shame. And you know it's there because you can look at it and feel it. Okay, hide it. Don't look at it. Yet, throughout the day or throughout life, things happen that cause it to trigger because we're connected to other things of the same frequency. And if you change the frequency of what you're holding on to, the effect will stop, even though the effect is still in place out there for everybody else. You separate yourself from the effect by saying, okay, if I get rid of my shame, I no longer experience it anymore. But that's the only way to do it. Principle of polarity, positive, negative, rhythm, cycles, the principle of cause and effect, the principle of gender. I haven't studied this, but you would find that there are different variations of it, that throughout culture in the past, through this book telling culture, I've got the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic. It's in here. Once you find the conceptual way of reading it and wire your brain to see it, you begin to go, okay, I see what they're doing. And you have to get back into their culture and let go of biases. There's a lot of brain work that goes into getting here, but it ends up being, you know what, every bit of it is, what are they doing? They got words, stories. Let's go to their culture for a minute. Let's look at them from our God mode. What are they doing? They're wearing robes. They got no lights. They got nothing. They're telling stories. They can't read. They can't write, but they're intelligent. These are all playing out in the playing field of the brain. There's a lot going on in those stories, and you would be completely involved in mental processes, working them through. What does this mean? What does that mean? Yeah, did you see that there were 7 times this was said over in Genesis, which probably correlates to 7? And you'd be doing that with your buddies. You'd be chanting these things. I picture in my head sometimes. I'm out on bike rides. I hear in the background. It's in English, but it's how the head works. They look like little kids in robes and turbans from 3,000 years ago, sitting around hearing stories and chanting things and saying things like, 7 said 3 times, 7 said 3 times, 7 said 3 times, as they're going through the stories or something. And you're realizing, you know what, they got them memorized. They know what they're talking about. We don't. They got all the pieces and parts upstairs right now. We don't. But learning to read them conceptually was something different. That was just looking at all of the material and making the correlation that they play out in the psyche. I've gotten way off of where I am going with this. Oh, no, maybe not. There was a different question, wasn't it? I don't know the Rosicrucian material, but if you were to look at things like, if you were to read about Atlantis, you would see a structure of 3, which would fit a hierarchy with a holy place in the middle, but it becomes corrupt. Does that sound familiar? The world becomes corrupt and it sinks beneath the sea. It gets drowned out. Does that sound familiar? It's in Plato. I don't like bringing that one up because people go, yeah, you're not. Yeah. That's another one of those. People don't like you playing with their stuff. What if I told you I can find it in alchemical work? The stone we need to convert is, what are we converting? We're converting lead into gold. We're converting bad into good. We're holding the story in a different way. We're still following the same patterns. And what we need to make the transition is actually something that we have upstairs all the time. But if you look at it, you'll realize what they need is the philosopher's stone, and that's what is going to be used to turn the base metal into gold. What stone? What are we doing? Philosophy. We need the philosopher's stone to turn the base metal into gold. Yeah, this is philosophy and psychology. This is actually all philosophy to understand how to function with the psychology, which when completed allows one to flow through life in a manner more conducive to a loving and peaceful life. I don't know that there's anything, I'm sure there's stuff out there that doesn't follow the pattern, that doesn't have the template. The Book of Mormon, it's not in there. Joseph Smith didn't see what was in the Bible. It is in the Quran. It's in the Bible. It's in the New Testament and the Old Testament. There's monomyths as well as just verse type sort of things. Turning yourself over to God is the same as turning yourself over to your higher being. I should do this. I'm not going to. I should do it. Turn yourself over to your higher being and do it. It's right. It's right. Blows my mind. Turn it inward. Find out how those analogous terms translate up into here, and then make the connection. It'll grow. I think that the Rosicrucian material would probably be fine. You would spot patterns in there. Look for things up front like, there's something cycling. They're telling me about planets or plants growing up in seasons or something like that. Somehow there's going to be something in the story that's holding something that is cycling. There's going to be something holding a cause and effect. A bless me, bless you. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. You would see elements like that in the beginning. If it's not a monomyth, you're not going to have a hero picked. We can go to Buddhism, Taoism, and actually those are hero journey stories. But if you went to the core teaching, that's what I mean. If you went to the Dhammapada by Buddha, or the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, or the Sermon on the Mount, Sermon on the Plain by Jesus, any of those three, it contains all of the necessary steps, but they're very, just do this, empty it out, turn inward, heal yourself, forgive, let go. It's not held in this long story form. We'll turn inward. I'm going to meet up with my inner self. I'm going to grab my wife who has been sinful, and I'm going to go and make some corrections and do the things. It doesn't do all of that. The long stories do. They're just making them long stories. The short teaching is like, well, if you want to learn it, cut to the chase, just grab one of those. If you want to go through the long material, it's going to take more time. And each culture has specific analogous terms that are different from somewhere else. So you really do have to find the concepts. You have to see that tearing down a building after marching around it 7 times is the same thing as destroying the earth after flooding it for 40 days. Those are hard to see at first. There's a lot of other things for me that went into that decision-making process to say what I said that you didn't see. There's things that have happened over just repetitive looking at things until I see things like, Eden, 7, 3, righteousness. All of those mean exactly the same thing as the golden fleece. Something you're going back to, you want to return to this place. All of them end up linking up that way. 3. Did I say that one? Yeah. And then as you're reading through them, you know that is there. That's what they had in place. That's what I'm gradually getting in place. But I'm nowhere near where they were. But if you go through and you want to do that, yeah, fine. What other styles? You can read Psalms or Proverbs or things like that. They're a different verse style. But they're based in the same teaching. You can go to, I haven't said this one in a while, Gospel of Thomas has one in there that is, actually it's been a while, I paused and got the book. The Gospel of Thomas would be another good one to study through. This one is verse number 102. Jesus said, "Woe to the Pharisees, for they are like a dog sleeping in the cattle manger, for it does not eat or let the cattle eat." That's from the Marvin Meyer translation. So the dog is in the manger. The Pharisees are like that. They're not letting anybody eat. What? What is that? That's a strange thing. But look at this. This is Aesop's Fables, 500 years previous to that, Greek. The dog in the manger. A dog was lying in a manger on the hay which had been put there for the cattle, and when they came and tried to eat, he growled and snapped at them and wouldn't let them get at their food. "What a selfish beast," said one of them to his companions. "He can't eat himself, and yet he won't let those who can eat, eat." This is worded very goofy. Same verse, though. You see it. It's like, oh, yeah, they're bringing stuff all over. The rest, I wouldn't use Aesop's Fables to study it. No, this does not contain the pattern. That verse was very close. But what they did is they modified it. The dog was not allowing the cattle to, the cows wanted to eat. The dog was not eating, nor was he letting the cattle eat. So they're all going hungry. And what they're saying here from the spiritual sense, the Pharisees just like that. They're not teaching the real deal. And by they, I mean Pharisees. The people that teach the Bible at face value, sorry, everybody, that they're the Pharisees. The Pharisees are not the people that in the story, in the analogs. Those are there, and the Pharisees, what did they do? They taught what was in the Bible. They told people what was there. They told people how to interpret it. Here, this means this, and that means that. Scribes would do that as well, but not to the Pharisees were the teachers of the material. They were higher up. And they didn't know the template. They didn't teach the template. And that's what this is nested right in the material. The Pharisees don't teach, don't allow anyone to consume. This is learning, feeding the mind, feeding the soul. When we turn it inward, the food becomes analogous to something that we need to consume. And we're not consuming anything from the Pharisees, who is telling us the Bible says, repent ye, sinner, for the end is near. That they're not feeding anyone properly, and they're not eating it themselves. Interested in some parallels? You look at these stories and go, is this going to emerge repeatedly than elsewhere, and how so? This would be the Ark of the Covenant story. The Ark of the Covenant is this gilded, all fancy thing. The big thing about the Ark is that it is carried by the masses, but it can only be seen in by a few people. Obviously, if you know the story, you realize there's more to it than that. There's priests that can look inside of it, which means a few people can see inside of it. And what is contained inside of it are the 10 Commandments, Aaron's staff. There's the things that are going to end up being the template themselves are inside of the ark. The masses carry it, few see inside. How about, while many are called, few are chosen. Many stand outside the narrow gate where the masses look, the roads outward are many that lead to destruction. Those are going to be the same teaching. But can you see that? That is where I just have to say it gets tricky. And honestly, this is where the conceptual transition, once that is wired in place, you begin to see these. You have to keep going after it and make that connection. It's like teaching yourself a language that only you can learn, but you know what you're trying to do. You know what you're trying to connect. And if you want it and your mind stretches for it, you'll go after it. You'll see it. So the Pharisees are carrying the Bible, and they're not allowing people to understand it. The people are carrying the ark, but the template inside of it is only accessed by a few. Many standing outside of the narrow gate where only a few will enter in. All of those become the same teaching. Different cultures, different time, different place, different analogous verbiage. Yet nevertheless, do you see that the concept right there? That's the tricky part. You got to see the concept. Anyway, they work like that, but you can see as you go through a lot of material, the parallels are there. That's another thing, is looking for the patterns. I said about the planet and Jericho being destroyed and the flood happening and the numbers there. What you're seeing happen right there is the destruction of something at a sequenced point in the story. Then what I've learned to do accidentally is to identify what there's nouns in there that are analogs. I want to know what they mean in my psyche, what they're holding. So Jericho, a bad city, represents my old self. The world that needs to be drowned out represents my old self. Suddenly they become the same thing. And it'll jumble around in the Bible, and it won't always be a complete monomyth, but it'll be continually repeating some pattern that fits with turning inward, destroying something, emerging pure on the other side. Then time goes by, it goes bad again, and things go bad. You must continue to move on. You must continue to make sacrifices. Things are better. It's going to be this pattern of things that go on that is really getting to the idea that we have a lot of garbage inside, and we're going to have to repeatedly go in and rectify things. We're going to feel good after we take care of something. But after time goes by, that good feeling, that elation that was there because we felt elevated by letting go of what was hurting us, becomes normal. That's not in the material, but that's what happens in life. What the material does, though, it goes back and it repeats more sequences. It's finding new ways of telling you, you must go destroy this, you must destroy that. You picked up this along the way. You got that bad stuff along the way. You got to get rid of that along the way. Yeah, you got your relationships with yourself or other, things out there are all bad, but that's the relationship with the life experiences that we're having, and not being in mental charge of it is what the teaching is. To me, seeing the template was, it did require a lot of seeing a lot of things, a lot of material, and being open to seeing a lot of things. I've got, I don't just have the Nag Hammadi. I've got several versions of it. Tao Te Ching's 6, 7 translations. I think 6 that I use. One of them is trash. Poor translation. Multiple Qurans. There's a lot of, I have multiple of a lot of things. Not the Bhagavad Gita or things like that. Or the Dhammapada. There aren't that many versions. That some don't translate very well. Chinese does not translate well. Pali translated a little easier, so Buddha's okay. The Tao Te Ching, you read one and go, I don't understand this. Then you pick up a different book and read it and go, is this the same book? Yeah, it is. You got to watch the translators. Are so different in what they're picking. Yeah, ask me questions. If you want to hook into something, I can guide. Boy, yeah, I need direction. I don't know where to go. It's so big, I see it all. What do you want? Ask me. Ask away. Okay. Does that cover it? Supernatural, natural, cosmic fields, waves. Brain has the capacity to interact in those fields. And like the other things that we sense that are happening at a molecular level, that we sense it as being just completely like it's there. We don't see the data in the Jello. We just see the Jello and taste the Jello. And feel the coolness of the Jello and all of that. We don't see the digital there. In the same manner, our thinking, our fears, the shared emotions, our brain is bigger than our 5 senses. It goes beyond. We pick up things. What is that? Had a gut feeling, but it doesn't always work. How did that cop know where the kid was? Nobody ever asked day after day, how come no cop knew where that kid was? Doesn't always work. When it does, you go, wow. You have to look at your own experiences and go, okay, that was not normal. I have personal experience with that. What happened? Yeah, Larry's calling out. Desire is out there. I can't respond to it, but I'm sensing it. It doesn't come to my consciousness. I'm busy. I'm focused. Not until I'm sneaking out of the house for some reason does it pop in at that moment. Only then it's too late, and there you are. People told me then, it was God talking to you. Why would we prayed every night for the beatings to stop? God? You think so? Angels or something like that. Larry was talking to you. It was his spirit. Third person? No, there was something different going on. There was something that went on, but I think it was just the way we work together in the cosmos, and that if we get rid of the stuff that we have accumulated in there that doesn't allow the energy to flow through us in pure forms, it continues to trigger those things we're carrying and taking us off course. We're not pure. We're not one. We've got so many things in there, so many facets that we need to clear that stuff out. And I think that creates conditions for supernatural to happen. Plus the way you engage emotionally with the field. If you're not feeling good and you're dealing with people, they may not respond to you and feel bad with you, but they may not connect with you. It's like, I'm not going to feel bad with you, but I don't connect. If you come up with a feeling of joy, hey, and you give people, make them feel good. You're going to get these feelings. You're going to get these connections. That's going to happen. What you put out at that moment in time and how you put it out is going to determine the nature of it. And in many cases, there will be times people are busy or they're not focused or they somehow don't respond to it in some way. But by and large, the way you engage with that field, the Tao, remembering the things that you hold on to are the things that keep coming back. And to be free of it all, you let it all go. Buddha, same thing. Jesus, same thing. Jesus is harder to read because the analogs shift in a different way. But it all works. Yeah, watch me do this stuff. I can crack open a lot of stuff and pull things out of it that people go, well, okay. I was all over the place. I couldn't fit. It's that simple? Really? Yeah. And it's embarrassingly so. It comes from me. It's got to be simple. Okay. I was getting ready to wrap this up and I thought I better edit this in. I want to talk about something, and that is the story of my brother and things like that, because people will often approach me and say, I'm really sorry that happened and everything. I want you to know I tell the story because it needs to be a tie-in point for everyone. You need to hear the example. You need to say, okay, I hear what he's talking about. Instead of me saying, here's what you need to do, I'm saying, okay, here's what I did, and here's what happened as a result. That's different. I'm showing what I'm finding instead of telling people what to do. So that's why it's there. It's a good place for people to say, I can make that comparison with my own life and I can understand that feeling. It's something that we're very good at being able to understand. Cause and effect are important things. Knowing that who was doing the acting out had been raised that way. That was my mom. She's gone now. She was raised that way. She was worse. I remember her saying, I will never have girls. I will never have girls. I will never raise girls. There was 5 boys eventually. No girls. You know why? She got molested. She had a lot of things happen. She got beat. She got told, shut up, you tell anybody. Get on your knees. Yeah. And she never figured it out. She could never get it off her. She could never get it free of it. But it came from elsewhere and elsewhere and elsewhere. And you look back as you're trying to heal and you go to God mode and realize, man, we're a mass of people down there emerging from that. You're emerging from that. You showed up there. Got no choice. If you're sitting in a sludge pile, it's going to take a while of walking through sludge before you get somewhere, but you got to go. Honestly, after saying that, you got to go if you want to leave is what I mean. This is difficult because you have to turn inward. There's a number of things that happen. First of all, if you can consider that birds of a feather flock together, we belong where we fit. We belong where people are like us. If we are very hurt and we are working on healing ourselves, we are going to have to be leaving the past behind. We're going to have struggles. That's a part of the story as well, leaving the past behind. We're going to have to move on quite often. Maybe not always. It depends on how far you heal. Some people don't do very much. Some people might not have the luxury, and there would have to be something different. The position that I come from, I can say, is limited to a male perspective who is always able to just go off on his own and say, I'm done. I'm going to go live by myself. In environments and in situations where you might be dependent, where you can't do that. I can't just take off and leave. I will die. I live here. I eat here. We have a life together here that is a coexistence that I cannot leave and just simply go off and live in the woods. Yeah, I don't have that luxury. So these become incredibly difficult. Yeah, not many people are going to do it. Anyway, okay. That kind of went all over the place, didn't it? I get, this is a part of the teaching when I'm just doing the template. That's so structured. There's a lot more to me than the template. Anyway, okay. Everything from my past is good. I understand that whatever I hang on to from there keeps me there. I love everybody from my past and what they did for me. I found a way to make it all okay. You have to do that. And I will tell you that took years. And there's still a little in place sometimes. Yeah, there is. You can see that. I tacked this on the end because I don't think many people are going to see it. So the template is there and you can see it all over the place. And as I sit and I ponder and I ponder and I go off places, I let go of the template and I start thinking about things, and other things begin to dawn on me. Like, damn it, there's a lot of people that know about this. This is not a secret. I found it. People can find this. People have found it before. And if it's that prevalent, if everything you find is somehow written on this, some sort of a structure, which, oh my God, there's incredible amounts of it that is. This was well known, and it's still well known. Have you noticed that the Pope recently is doing a lot of trying to be inclusive with the gay community? I can appreciate that. There's a lot of people that don't. From a standard biblical interpretation, that would be a sin because of the way that the Bible is written, the way the analogs are held. What I want to talk about is that this template, the more I find it, the more I see its prevalence, the more I see it everywhere, the more I realize, God, this is known by people. There are people who know this that are keeping it secret. They know better. What am I doing? I'm finding it without being a part of their secret society, so I'm just blabbering it. Watch this one. This is from antiquity. Jesus was chosen as the only Son of God, had supernatural powers, traveled with hand-selected disciples, and told us to seek the kingdom of heaven within. 800 years ago, Welsh, Knights of the Round Table. Arthur was the one chosen as the only one who could extract Excalibur, traveled with Merlin for supernatural powers, had hand-selected knights that he traveled with, and seeks the Holy Grail. I'm not going to explain that one. I'm just going to tell people, look for template steps. Look for broader concepts in there. If we interpret the material, all of it, every bit of it is going to fit on this template. What is a male? What is Adam? That is the conscious. Conscious and conscious. What does it mean to have male on male? That means attaching to life, seeing the physical, seeing what is happening out there. That is like first sin. Don't do that. It's that part of the teaching that's coming in, held in a different set of analogs. It's more realistic to say, man shall not lie with man or something like that, than it is to say a serpent came into the garden and tempted Eve to eat of the fruit of the tree that she was not supposed to eat of. Those are both the same thing. They are representing the idea that we are of an age now, we're leaving our pure state behind, and we are now going into the world and having just our normal sort of experiences that we have in life. Okay, so it's taken a while for me to figure out what this is as far as life. It's not trying to just simply heal a pain. It's healing a life. There's a point when we are early on in life, when we are little and we're pure. And from that point, we begin exposing ourselves to the world through just experience. And through those experiences, we begin to judge life, and we start becoming products of that judgment, of those judgments as we move along. And we're doing that without realizing that we're doing that. So the things that we're storing, I hate that, I like that, I'm shamed, all of that stuff is we don't know that storing that away at the time we're doing it, we're living in a conscious world. That is first sin. That is man on man. Those are going to fit in the same sort of a place where there's a non-purity there. But the non-purity really simply means at the end of the day, we're not aware of what we're doing. Okay, in this case, what we want to be doing normally in life is for our conscious and our subconscious, our male and our female aspects to be working together, to be functioning together, to be having their experiences together. That is a very inner, I am connected with myself, free place. Once I start having sex with males, analogs. Once I shouldn't even say that. Somebody will sample that. Okay. The idea in the analogs is that now my conscious is not paying attention to my inner being anymore. I am now looking at the physical world, and I am having mental offspring based on my affiliation with that. We're getting hurt, yes, but we're also living life hurting others and not aware of it. Yeah, yours too, all that. We're doing all kinds of things. It's what this stage of life is really living life unaware of anything other than the fact that I'm living my conscious life. I'm dealing with this, I'm dealing with that, when we step back from it, life becomes different. At first, we are not stepped back from it. And that's what man on man represents. We're having these world experiences that we need to leave behind. They go on to say things like, this is more severe. If you find out that your wife is not a virgin on your wedding night, then take her to her father's doorstep and stone her to death. You know why they would use that as an analog? Do you feel compassion for the women that got stoned to death for no reason? Fucking animals. Imagine that. I've been hit with stones before. It hurt. Imagine getting in a street just being pummeled with them. Since I'm Mr. Analog, one comes to mind. Imagine instead getting beat to death with a hammer. Hit, hurt, bat, smack, crack. Makes me cry. Okay, that's how they're living through the analogs. Turn it in, what happens? The wedding night, Jesus talks about the wedding night, the wedding chamber. We want to remarry with ourselves. I want my conscious and my subconscious to be in unison again. I don't want things acting out anymore. If when I try that and I find out that my wife is not a virgin, there's still things acting out of her, then I am supposed to kill her off. Get rid of, destroy what is there. It fits on the template. You do it on her father's doorstep, which was where that originated. Being careful to remember when I say get rid of her, that means get rid of the inner self. This is all inside. That means get rid of my inner hurt, my inner, whatever is not of my choosing. Even if you can't figure out that it's a template in there, that it still contains just horrific stuff that if you think it through mentally, you go, this is not a good thing. We're no longer told to go stone your wives on your father's doorsteps. But they'll still do the gay. Okay, so what was I getting at here? The Pope knows that. Why would he say, we got to be inclusive? He knows that the template is there, but he can't admit to the fact that the whole thing is a template and it's fake. They still need human control. What happens if you tell the world right now, we can prove it. Your stuff's a fable. It's myth. Held in a way that makes you carry it because you're so scared that not only will you carry it, you will kill people over it. Yeah, we're an evolving mess. Thinking we're smart because we can read. Really, though, if we think it through, the religion is not driving the problem. It's the population, it's the evolution in the background that is driving the real issue. The religions provide excuse. The religion is like it's like it's in the way. Do you want to see the problem? You have to you got it covered with something. The problem is evolution, but you're covering it up with denial of it. It's covered with ignorance. Anyway, all right, I wanted to say that. I think that this is much bigger than, I think it's supposed to be secret. But I think it's time to say, let's take a close look. I don't want to take things away from people that need something, but can't we put something else in place? It might take some generations. Create something new. Create Christianity again. Only this time tell people, here's Jesus' teachings. Follow them. Never worship him. You do not worship Jesus. You do not worship God. You worship their teachings. But you know why that's got to be a secret society? How many people out there would say, I'm going to write the Bible, that don't even know that there's a template in there? This has to be done by the right people. They have to know the life sequence in order to do it. So if you want the healing material to be in a religion, the religion should be something that is closer to, it should tell you to turn inward to do this. It should be very specific and very strong about, when you have to forgive aught against your brother, they need to be more clear and say, you need to forgive the aught against your brother for all time. The people in the past, from the beginning of your lifetime, you need to forgive everything that hurts you. They don't say that. That is actually what needs to happen. For purity to happen, you got to let it all go. hanging on to stuff and going, how do I find purity? While you're just, dragging everything along with us. This sounds very rhetorical, though. I want to say I have heard all my life, let it go, let it go, let it go. Nobody tells you how to let it go. I always thought, I don't see the difference. You have to keep analyzing it. How come some people are trying to make it better and they can't? Some people have got good lives. What's the difference? How come some people can let things go? How come all of it boils down to not just forgiveness? That's not all there is to it. It is taking the things that you have up here stored as memories that you have a perception of that is in some way derogatory, and resolving that until it isn't there anymore. That is how you let it go. And that is why this process is going over and over again. Go heal, go heal, go heal. You resolve a big problem, you're going to feel like your feet aren't touching the ground. You let something go that you've been hiding away forever, it's going to make you feel enlightened. But that is a sensation that's a physical sensation from having that conflict released that is going to average out. It's like you just reset the thermostat or something like that. Pretty soon you'll feel normal again, days, weeks, something like that. You'll be like, okay, now every day feels the same again. But there's going to be something else. Maybe there might be people out there that had really good lives that have something they need. I gotta tell mom I did something once I lied about. I gotta go resolve it. I feel guilty, and that, their life is okay. I don't think so. Most of us on this path are going to come from a place where you're like, oh my God, yeah, I hate this, I hate that, I did this, I did that, this happened, that happened, and there's times where I can't figure out what's going on, and I don't remember that I sat in the woods crying, taking this stuff in, growing. Those are also memories that are stored away. You go visit them. Where's this coming from? Oh, I see something from my past. Go visit it with your higher being. Hello, how are you doing? Talk with yourself. If you start crying, that's how there's a process for figuring this stuff out that's in the material it is incredibly complicated, but it is interactive. Anyway, okay, I'm going to let that go. Hope this video was fine. I threw extra stuff on there. I wanted to do the nature. Yeah, I believe in some manner it's going to be something like that. I'm not a physicist. I just look at all the possible things I can and go, what is like this? This sensation is like these sensations. But yeah, anyway, you see what it is. When you think it through, you'll realize, oh yeah, what he did, anybody could do. You just have to do it. Again, it's science. We're not looking at anything different. We're just looking at the same stuff differently. And then mentally working it through until there's a point where you go, okay, I see what it is. They're not just stories. They are not. There's something in there. There are some that are just stories. When you learn to read them, you can tell the difference. You can see which ones have the teachings and which ones don't. There was one common thing. It was like their big thing. You look at it and go, that was the most important thing, to know how to self-heal. My life hurts. And our media is storytelling. Let's see how many stories we can make on this. It's a network. Globally. Different channels in different places, but still the same core template. And all I can do at this point is say, keep looking at what I'm doing. Wire your brain. You'll see it. It is not something that I saw readily. It is not. It took a while. All right. Take care. See you in the next video.